Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to be reacting to.
What caused division in Cyprus? The Cypriot Partition Explained.
For most of its history, Cyprus was a Greek island, but today it's split between the Republic of Cyprus, which controls only the Greek-speaking south, and the self-declared Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus, which is only supported by Turkey. But the
I
Greek
didn't
and
know
I
that.
didn't know
Turkish
that either.
Cypriots weren't always quite so segregated, so then why did their efforts to cooperate
So
break down?
when you say Cyprus, I kind of always thought it was the whole island when
Yeah,
you
me
say
too.
Cyprus. This when we say Cyprus, do we just mean the Greek part of Cyprus then? I don't know.
And then what caused them to divide so violently? Why did the island of Cyprus have to end up partitioned? Well, the kind of sad story of Cyprus's two main groups today began when the Mycenaean Greeks colonized the island at least 3,500 years ago. Cyprus would then be held by many powers, though always with an ethnically Greek population, until it ended up conquered by the Ottoman Empire in 1571. That began a period of Turkish migration to Cyprus, as well as the cultural conversion of some Greeks. Both groups then have made Cyprus their home
Oh.
since well beyond living memory, but it wasn't until the 1950s that intercommunal tensions really started to boil over. Before their independence, all Cypriots lived under British imperial administration. The UK acquired Cyprus from the Ottomans in 1878, but by the end of World War II, each Cypriot community had very different ideas about what Cyprus should become in a rapidly decolonizing world. The
Hmm.
Greek Cypriots, led by the Archbishop of Cyprus, Makarios III, overwhelmingly favored an idea called enesis, or union. They didn't see themselves as Cypriot nationals, just as Greeks who happened to live on the island of Cyprus, and
Mm.
they very much wanted to become a part of Greece proper. Likewise, the Turkish community saw themselves as Turks, like those in Turkey, and favored what they called Taksim, division of Cyprus between Turkey and Greece. For their part, Britain was uninterested in either.
Hmm.
Empires don't tend to like giving up land, but the reactions to that from the Greek and Turkish Cypriots differed. Greek speakers made up some 78% of the population in
Oh,
1960.
really?
They felt,
Oh.
because they were the clear majority on the island, they were entitled to independently determine Cyprus's future and join with Greece. So, when Britain didn't move to make Enesis happen, Makarios III authorized the creation of a militia group, the EOKA, to forcefully resist British occupation. It was supported by Greece and led by an experienced Greek colonel, Georgios
Bloop.
Grivas, who had been born on Cyprus. The Turkish Cypriots, on the other hand, continued to advocate for partition, and frankly, they would have rather remained under British rule than become minorities on a Greek Cyprus.
Hmm.
Backed by Turkey,
Interesting.
they formed their own armed groups to combat the EOKA.
So,
Prominent
what's
was
the partition look like?
I don't know if this still exists today. Maybe it does.
Hmm.
Let's see. Yeah, I mean, I knew the island was like two countries, like in terms of like people from both of the ethnic groups. So that part I knew. I just didn't know there was like
I
official
didn't
like
know there was a
line. Yeah,
line.
like a line drawn.
was the Turkish resistance organization, led by the nationalistic Rauf Denktash, while Cypriot Turkish politics at that point were led by Dr. Fazıl Küçük. Eager to no longer have to deal with that situation, and to avoid causing a war between two of its allies, the UK, Greece, and Turkey are all members of NATO, by late 1958, Britain wanted out. In order not to annoy anyone too much, the Greek and Turkish Cypriot leaderships, plus their patrons in Athens and Ankara, were convinced to accept a compromise between Enesis and Taksim, independence, with a rather unique constitution.
Hmm.
That was designed to enable the communities to share power. It was also probably doomed from the start. The Republic of Cyprus came into being on August 16, 1960. Its president, elected by the Greek Cypriots, was Archbishop Makarios. Its vice president, elected by the Cypriot Turks, was Dr. Küçük. Both had veto powers over legislation.
That's an interesting concept. So minority elects the vice president, majority elects the president. Cool on paper, but in reality, vice president has no powers. At least here in the states, I don't know. Vice president, the only power, or veto the Senate vote, or like the
Or
tiebreaker.
yeah, or if the president.
Oh, right. That's actually creates a problem because think about it. Minority elects the vice president, and minority of the president. Oh, vice
Mm.
president is now the president. And so that's
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's crazy. Honestly, that's not a good way to do things. No, no, no.
Which would be made by a parliament that was mandated to allocate seats to the two communities at a ratio of 7 to 3. That same split was applied widely, including to government ministers and the civil service, while the state's armed forces were to be 60% Greek and 40% Turkish Cypriot. The constitution was written with the consultation of Greece and Turkey, and it allowed both an exceptional amount of influence over what was supposed to be a sovereign state. As a condition of independence,
What do you mean?
how many people want to be a part of the military to represent only like a small portion?
And they do. They want their freedom.
they, along with Britain, became guarantor powers of Cypriot sovereignty, territorial integrity, and independence through the Treaty of Guarantee.
What is that little part?
That also gave each an explicit right of intervention to ensure the new status quo remained on Cyprus. Another treaty stipulated that small parts of the island would remain sovereign British military bases, and they do to this day.
Military base.
For the Cypriot Turks, the Treaty of Guarantee felt absolutely essential. At less than 20% of the population, they would have had no power to stop the Greek majority from enacting Enesis without the protection of Turkey. For the Greek Cypriots, it was an outrage. They argued that under such conditions, Cyprus was not fully sovereign, and also feared a Turkish invasion to bring about Taksim by force, all of which highlights just how little trust existed between the two communities, as well as the fact that neither had developed a Cypriot nationality, and both saw Cyprus as an artificial state. No surprise then, the government collapsed in 1963. Exactly why is a very contentious matter.
It does kind of sound like an artificial state, though. If one part identifies as Greeks, the other part identifies as Turks. What is it? You know?
Obviously, each side blames the other, but the crisis was certainly ignited by gridlock.
Nobody identifies as Cypriots. You know?
Over how to run local governments. President Makarios then introduced 13 constitutional amendments that, from the perspective of the Greek Cypriots, would have ensured smooth functioning of government. The obstructionist Turks then withdrew from power sharing. From the perspective of the Cypriot Turks, though, Makarios was making a move to ensure Greek domination of politics, and they didn't abandon the constitutional framework, they were forced out. Either way, though, the Republic of Cyprus became a totally Greek Cypriot-controlled state. In truth, both interpretations of the events of 1963 are mostly true. Remember, neither group was invested in the survival of the Republic's political system. The consequences on the ground were nasty, though. Turkish Cypriot protesters and paramilitaries on the streets were met by equally zealous Greeks. The collapse of power sharing saw the communities almost fully segregate, with the minority Turkish speakers living in scattered enclaves. However, they were not exclusively in the north as they are today. That's part of why agreeing to some form of Taksim was still so unpalatable to the Greek Cypriots. You simply couldn't just carve away a clean 18% or so of Cyprus for the Turks. But feeling under siege from the Greeks, they became more determined to stand up for themselves. Violence broke out again in 1967 when a pro-Enesis coup d'etat overthrew the government of Greece. That fighting led to the Cypriot Turkish community, led by Denktash, effectively,
Israel.
but not
I guess.
technically seceding from the Cypriot state. They had not yet declared independence, and for 6 years, Denktash and Makarios' governments engaged in negotiations. That was complicated by two factors. First, while most Cypriot Turks just wanted to live in peace, Denktash had a bit of a hero complex. He was provocative and not a man for compromise. Second, a split had opened in the Greek Cypriot camp. Makarios and his supporters, a majority, were no longer dead set on Enesis. However, some Greek Cypriots, and definitely the military junta in Athens, had not given up on the idea. In 1971, the old EOKA colonel Grivas was sent from Greece to Cyprus to form a new organization, the EOKA-B. This time, they fought Makarios' Cypriot government. When Grivas died in 1974, his forces came basically under the direct control of the Greek junta, and in July, the EOKA-B, joined by Greek officers in the Cypriot National Guard, seized the presidential palace and forced Makarios to flee. The other two guarantor powers took notice of that. Britain, no longer the empire she once was, decided to sit it out, but Turkey, as was its right, invaded the island. Within 3 days, they had effectively forged a corridor to the Turkish sections of Nicosia, Cyprus's capital, and in doing so brought about the collapse of Greece's junta, totally unprepared to actually put up a fight, as well as its Cypriot puppet government. On July 23rd, the Turks halted their advance, and negotiations began in Geneva.
How was because this is around the 70s.
This is recent.
So this is pretty recent. So I wonder some of the people that we see today, like Anna, her accounts of this situation.
Right, yeah. The only thing, maybe not the whole country was dealing with this, maybe a certain region, so but Yeah,
But like
this is
it's not the
this is
big,
it's
big, big.
recent. It's
Yeah.
recent. Yeah.
And if it had ended there, the Cyprus issue might not be so complex today. Up until then, Turkey acted entirely legally via the Guarantee Treaty. The next bit's more problematic. On August 14th, negotiations paused because Makarios, restored as president, was abroad. Turkey took advantage of that and the relative weakness of the Greek Cypriot forces to restart their offensive, and in another 3-day campaign, they captured about 36% of Cyprus. This time it was clear their intent was not to restore a united island, but to seize land to create a homogenous Turkish state. Some 160,000 Greek Cypriots had their property seized and fled from the occupied north,
Mm.
while 50,000 Turks from the south moved into the Turkish occupied zone. The United Nations established a
I wonder
peacekeeping.
what's their overall goal if they want more land.
I don't.
Because remember in the chart there was a breakdown that there's also some uh
I,
Turks Cypriots on the other side too.
so they rushed north. They run north. I don't think. I don't think they want more land. I think because their whole idea was the division.
Mm-hmm.
That's I don't remember the word right now, but they use that word division. That the Greeks wanted unification and Turks wanted division. So I think their goal
Mm.
was division, and they accomplished that. They divided the island. So they basically just wanted a separate part for the Turks only, and like I guess Turkish
Oh.
government and stuff like that.
Force on the ceasefire lines, and that exists to this day. Denktash proclaimed the creation of
Oh.
the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus in 1983. Only Turkey has ever accepted it as a state. The third largest island in the
Oh.
Mediterranean then remains partitioned, but it's not the only one with an interesting
So
history.
is
You
it
can find out how
partition with
Corsica
something
became a part
there?
of
Like
France,
can
an
you
event.
not cross over?
I don't know. Uh, this is so interesting. Huh.
And when the world talks about
Because
Cyprus, do they talk about the whole thing?
rem- so okay, based on this, I understood Cyprus is still the whole island. Only Turkey
Mm-hmm.
recognizes the partition.
Mm-hmm.
So we still, as far as we are concerned, is when we say Cyprus, we mean the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder what is in the Turkish part of the island. Because remember when Eric showed us picture, he went to the in Cyprus. He
Mm-hmm.
went to like the abandoned cities, and he
Mm-hmm.
said it's under military control. So I wonder if where he went, it was the Turkish parts, like that northern
Mm-hmm.
part. So maybe nobody lives there now. Maybe it's just under military control. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting video though. I did not know anything about this. That was very interesting.
Mm-hmm. Can I see the comments?
Sure, yeah. An important detail, even before the British arrival, despite the population living together, religious and communal institutions were divided.
I
One,
think maybe they want also to be divided because they seem like it was scattered all over for first.
well, yeah, they don't want to be. I mean, the Turks don't want to become under Greek rule. The Greeks don't want to become under Turkish rule.
Oh,
So it's natural. It's kind of
they want to separate
it's similar
themselves.
situation to what's happening in Ukraine.
Mm,
There, what Russia's
yeah.
claim was why Russia invaded was that there was Russians living in that part of Ukraine, that the part they
Mm-hmm.
took. So they said they came for their people. That's what the Turks did. The Turks came for their people.
Mm,
So uh, to kind of remedy this is to have
mm-hmm.
the people move to the mainland Turkey and give them whatever and just give the obviously it has to be some sort of negotiation to come what you get for the land to give up the land
Mm.
so I don't know
I wonder if it's a truce now.
but I think it's a ceasefire, yeah, some
It
sort of.
says I'm a Greek Cypriot.
Despite this, if you look at the details I mentioned are correct, I don't think a solution will be found as both countries have drifted away too much and the economic and cultural disparity due to the north being embargoed and having mainland Turks settling there make it impossible as well as properties issue. I also do not want the Turkish settlers on the island. I want the hold up. Oh my god, I can't click it here. I want the Turkish Cypriots that belong here. Okay, so he's saying he don't want the Turkish immigrants. He just wants the Turks that belong here. Let them stay, but you don't want Turkish
New people to
new from
come
Turkey to come
because
here.
then it could be I'm a more lands.
Yes, taxism was so taxism is the division. That's the word.
Oh.
Was a cheese and bravo Turkey because you know no one will oppose you. On the other hand, us Greek Cypriots have done terrible things to the TC community in Cyprus. Interesting. So that's why whenever like people in the comments they feel they're Greek Cypriots, because I just
Ew.
thought Cypriot is a Cypriot.
No, I thought they identify. Okay, we're Greek, but not from Greece. We're like
Right,
over in Cyprus.
right. I didn't know there's Greek Cypriot because they're like of this part.
Division, yeah.
Yeah, that's
Oh, it's
like
very
yeah, this was very. I
interesting.
didn't know anything about this. I honestly
Mm.
thought
I wonder if
it
their
was one
government, how
country.
long is like, do they get reelected and like,
I don't know,
I
but
don't, because this ceasefire is very
this was
recent.
interesting. Yeah, this was interesting
Hmm.
video. Wow.
Guys, of course, let us know your thoughts. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Join the Discord, and as always, share as much kindness as possible.